Welcome back, guys. Hope you're having a great time studying Caesar and hanging in there with the quarantine. So today is Cycle 22, Meeting 2. It's either April 3rd or April 6th. We're going to review Act 1, the homework that you needed to complete. We'll go over all those questions and text evidence. And we're going to start Act 2, Scene 1. That's all you need to finish for the next time. Okay, the next time we hope to finish Act 2 so that there isn't any quote unquote homework going on from there. All right. Pun of the day: after punching his computer and breaking his hand, the guy required technical support. So our purpose, again, is to learn how Shakespeare uses elements of drama. We're going to do this through text analysis because authors' decisions about craft and structure differ amongst texts and contribute to the meaning. So we're trying to figure out, again, why did Shakespeare use a drama to give his message? That choice contributes to the meaning. So we're going to analyze how literary form relates to and influences the meaning. So we'll take a look at drama, how it influences the meaning of the text. We're going to identify and analyze how stage directions, monologues, dialogue, soliloquy, and dialect support dramatic script. We're really going to focus on soliloquy today, and we're also going to continue to compare and evaluate the characteristics that distinguish narrative poetry and drama. So first, we're going to take a look at how literary form relates to and influences the meaning of the text. So one of the big questions on your study guide was, why did Shakespeare start the play with commoners? Well, as we talked about, Shakespeare's trying to connect to his audience, okay? We need to remember that at that time, everyone loved Queen Elizabeth I, but she was going to die, and they didn't have an heir to the throne. So Shakespeare created this play to emphasize that this message is for the people. He puts it in the Globe Theater where it only costs a penny to come and see the play. And so anybody can be there. And certainly after people would view it, they would probably tell other people, and so that they would come, right? You didn't have to be literate. You didn't have to be rich to be able to buy a book, to be able to read it in the newspaper, okay? It was a play, which is meant to be performed on stage. So it shows the perspective of the people, all right? Starting scene 1 with the carpenter and the cobbler and having this little fight with the soldiers, people could say, oh, I feel like I'm like that person, or I'm like that person, okay? And it gives them their perspective, and it emphasizes that the play is for the people, that there's a warning to be had for the English people, that Shakespeare doesn't want what happened to Rome to happen to England. And so it emphasizes that the people may have a choice if their ruler falls. So when we take a look at the text evidence from scene 1, excuse me, first of all, we get this idea that there is a carpenter. It says, why, sir, a carpenter, right? Shows the occupation, connects with the audience. Some of them might have been carpenters. And then in lines 10 through 11, it says, I am, but as you would say, a cobbler. Again, statement of occupation. A cobbler is a mender of soles, of the shoes, creating shoes, fixing shoes. Okay, again, it connects with the audience. But indeed, sir, we make holiday to see Caesar and to rejoice in his triumph. Now, in England, when they say we're making holiday, it means they're taking a vacation. Doesn't necessarily mean that there is a holiday. Of course, at this time, there was a holiday. It was the Feast of Lupercal, which was a celebration of fertility where young and energetic men would run around with skins, and they would, if they hit you on the side, if you were watching them, if they hit you, then that was supposed to give you good luck. But here, they're not just there for that holiday. They're here to celebrate Caesar's homecoming and rejoice in his triumph. So again, it states why they're not working. The people love Caesar. Remember, Act 1 is all about for and against Caesar. The cobbler and the carpenter love Caesar, and they represent all the people. So again, this connects with the audience who adored Queen Elizabeth. As we get back to this whole idea, why did he start the play with the commoners? Well, the people love Queen Elizabeth. Here, the people love Caesar. And so it's a direct connection. You know, the audience is engaged because it is a drama. And so that's what we need to understand. Shakespeare uses drama to warn the audience of what would happen to them if Queen Elizabeth I dies. Drama engages the entire nation, poor and rich alike, and provides a massive audience for the playwright's agenda. So now we're going to continue to look at how literary form relates to and influences the meaning, and we'll also take a look at some of the forms of drama, stage directions, dialogue, soliloquy, etc. So first of all, Act 1, Scene 1, really the whole act is all about who's for and against Caesar, and we're going to go through what exactly happened throughout, and then we'll take a look at the text evidence. So you want to have your study guide open. I'm going to go through what we have here. I've given you the summary of the play. You can review that on your own. Act 1, of course, starts on the street in Rome. Caesar defeated Pompey's army. He's now the one ruler of the triumvirate. They used to have a rule of 3. Now it's just down to Caesar. Basically, he pushed, Crassus was the other one of the triumvirate, and he was kind of pushed out, and he defeats Pompey. So we have these 2 soldiers. We have the 2 commoners. They're on the streets of Rome talking. And as you can see here, Flavius, one of the soldiers, is like, dude, why are you guys out here on the streets? You should be working. Hence home, you idle creatures, get you home. Idle means you're not doing anything. You're just watching. All right. And then, of course, the commoners are ready to see the return of Caesar. But indeed, sir, we make holiday to see Caesar and rejoice in his triumph. The soldiers decide to take down the decorations for Caesar, and this proves to be not such a good idea. They're showing that they are against Caesar. So Flavius tells Marulus, go you down the way towards the Capitol. This way will I disrobe the images if you do find them decked with ceremony. So they're taking away the decorations, images of Caesar, disrobing them, taking away the fanfare, the bunting, whatever they would have used to celebrate Caesar's homecoming. So they believe he's too ambitious and that he wants to rule as a king or a dictator. So how do the commoners react to Caesar? Well, they love Caesar. They're celebrating his homecoming. The tribunes don't like the commoners. They feel that they're lazy, that they're hypocritical. They mention in the text how they had celebrated Pompey. Well, Pompey just got defeated by Caesar. So they're saying, well, wait a second. How can you celebrate Pompey on one day and then praise Caesar who kills Pompey the next? You guys just want a party. That's really what they're saying. All right. So Shakespeare, though, the big question, why did Shakespeare start the play with the commoners, as we talked about, connecting with his audience, emphasizing that the people have a choice? So scene 2, now we finally get into the main characters. Scene 1, those characters, you're not really going to see them again. Okay, there will be some references to the people, certainly. But here it's, again, during the Feast of Lupercal, the celebration of fertility. So you can envision lots of people, as we kind of already saw. And there's a race that's going on where there are younger people like Mark Antony running this race. They have skins, and if they touch you with the skin, then it was meant to be good luck. So the actions, what happens? Well, the soothsayer is a fortune teller, and he is meant to provide foreshadowing and a warning. All right. He is in the crowd and he warns Julius Caesar. He says, beware the Ides of March. Watch out for March 15th. And Caesar just shrugs him off. He says, he's a dreamer. Let us leave him pass. And then we see Brutus. And Brutus, again, was a friend and a senator, friend of Caesar, very close to him. And he has an internal conflict because he's thinking aloud and saying, well, you know what? I like Caesar, but I don't want him necessarily to be king. And so the people choose Caesar as their king. And Antony offers him the crown 3 times, but Caesar rejects it. And this is really more to show humility, to gain political power. Casca reports this. He says, I saw Mark Antony offer him a crown, yet 'twas not a crown, neither 'twas one of these coronets. And as I told you, he put it by once, but for all that, to my thinking, he would have fain have had it. So he's like, he disregarded it the first time it was given to him. Then he, meaning Antony, offers it to him again. But then Caesar put it by again. To my thinking, he was very loath to lay his fingers off it. Again, Casca recognizing that Caesar really wants it, but he wants to build up support, wants to show humility to build up crowd support. And then it says, and then he offered it to him the 3rd time. He put it by the 3rd time, and still as he refused it, the rabblement, meaning the commoners, hooted and clapped. They were very excited. They chapped their hands and threw up their sweaty nightcaps and uttered such a deal of stinking breath because Caesar refused the crown that it almost choked Caesar, for he swooned and fell down at it. So it actually mentions that Caesar actually faints, and he did have a fainting sickness. Again, Shakespeare used Plutarch's biography, and he does use a lot of what actually happened. So Cassius now, of course, needs to build up this conspiracy. He's trying to persuade Brutus and claims that Caesar is becoming a god. Caesar thinks Cassius thinks too much, so Caesar's onto it. Caesar recognizes that, you know what, Cassius is up to something. He thinks too much. And as we said, Caesar faints. Cassius decides, you know what, I'm going to write letters from the common people to Brutus saying how much they respect and love Brutus. Because again, remember, Brutus is honorable. He wants to do what is best for the people of Rome. So you can see that text evidence as I just mentioned. So then it's a street in Rome, there's thunder and lightning, and you need to understand that Shakespeare uses the weather to foreshadow chaos and bad things. This didn't necessarily happen. This is something that Shakespeare is adding to the drama to build up the suspense, to emphasize that things are going wrong in the city. All right, and so here you have some conspirators, Casca, Cicero, and Cassius. Basically, anybody's name that begins with a C other than Caesar is against Caesar and is one of the conspirators. And simply in this scene, Cassius meets Casca. They had arranged to do that. Cassius believes Caesar has grown to a monstrous state. He says, but if you consider the true cause, why all these fires, why all these gliding ghosts, he's referencing the weather, why birds and beasts from quality and kind, why old men full and children calculate, why all these things change from their ordinance, their natures and perform faculties to monstrous quality, why you shall find that heaven hath infused them with these spirits to make them instruments of fear and warning unto some monstrous state. Again, he's mentioning that Caesar is getting too big. People are afraid of him, and that the weather is warning that Caesar is getting too big. He's too ambitious. Casca tells that the senators are going to crown him king. So even though Caesar refused the crown in front of the people, they say that the senators are going to crown him king the next day. Cassius threatens suicide if Caesar rules. He says, I will wear this dagger. Cassius is a bit weak. This is one of many times that he will threaten to kill himself if Caesar rules. And so Casca and Cassius agree to the conspiracy. Cinna comes in, wants Brutus on board. Cinna is going to be the one that's going to take the notes from these fake notes to Brutus to try to persuade him. And that's what he says right there in that text evidence. So as we take a look at this chart, who is for and against Caesar? The carpenter and cobbler and Mark Antony are for Caesar. We're really not sure about Brutus. We know that Brutus will be against Caesar, but that hasn't happened yet. Flavius and Marulus, Cassius and Casca are all against Caesar. So they want to kill Caesar because he's too powerful, too monstrous, too ambitious. Cassius is the ringleader. Casca, Cicero, Cinna are all trying to get Brutus on board with a conspiracy. And we talked about the fact that this is Caesar's homecoming. It's the Feast of Lupercal. And the soothsayer warns Caesar to beware the Ides of March. Caesar feels that Cassius is dangerous. He thinks too much. And Casca reports that Mark Antony offered the crown to Caesar 3 times and that 3 times he refused. At the end of Act 1, Cassius, again, is planning on sending these fake letters written by the commoners. Okay. And so how is drama different than a novel? All right. We're going to take a look at that right now, these last 2 questions. This is very important because this gets at the big idea of recognizing the differences between drama and poetry and other ones. Okay, so we're going to compare and evaluate the characteristics that really distinguish novels from dramas, right? And one of the biggest differences is that it tells a story with different points of view. When you're watching a drama, you are looking at everyone, right? They all give their own dialogue. It's not like it's written third person point of view, written from one person or one character or first person. No, you get different points of view. You get to see their nonverbal communication. So you get the point of view of the commoners, of Caesar and Brutus. So one of the advantages of using a drama is that it engages the audience, as we talked about, allows them to connect to the common people. The audience can experience the story together. They can ask questions at the intermission or after the play, right? So those are a couple big reasons. All right, so we're going to stop